Okay, really quickly. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Play Mad Talk. We just played a crazy game, and yeah, we're gonna talk about it. We already started talking about it, but I'll switch these scopes around. So,
Yeah, perfect.
We did it.
We played a game.
We played a game.
It was fun. It was fun. That was crazy. The board games were all so big,
Charlie.
and then so little.
So I kind of mentioned during the game that whenever I first built this deck, I thought it was a slow deck, and I'm realizing now that it was just that I was a poor pilot to this deck. So first of all, I'm really sorry because whenever we were talking in our turn 0 conversation, I said this is a very mid to late range, like late game kind of deck. And that's honestly just because that's the way that I used to play it, and I just didn't realize how good this deck was gas. I haven't played this.
I don't think you have to apologize for that because oftentimes even late to mid-range decks can have a draw that makes them more aggressive or makes them go off sooner. There are times when a deck that is a lower power level will just get all the cards that make it go vroom.
That's
so it's not necessarily that you misrepresented your deck at all. I don't think that does look to me to be a deck that requires a little bit of setup. Nobody had removal for the enchantments that you had that were really activating to make sure that she got value. So like if anybody had an answer for Zendikar's Royal, then that slows you down entirely. Until you get the Scoot Swarms to sacrifice. So any one little piece of that being broken up by a little bit of interaction from opponents, the squirrel deck and the hello cat. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's awesome.
Any little bit of interaction from that from any of those and it would have just shut down the deck, and just the fact that the squirrel deck and the dog deck and dog and cat deck are less interactive in that respect, or at least didn't draw their interactive pieces. The artifact and enchantment removal is there in those colors. It's just not showing up there beyond the one that did the Call of the Ring, right? So I don't think you have to apologize. It's not that your deck was overpowered for the situation. It's just that it got a good draw that that really did, work against what we had. So please do not feel bad. It was awesome to see it go.
But now I feel better.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's also the point. Like you build a deck to win, and it did that. Congratulations, it works.
Thank you. I think getting Zendikar's Royal out in the early game was what really set Zimona and Dina up to be able to continue the pattern. Especially, in my opening hand, I had the Zendikar's Royal, I had the Tireless Provisioner for the treasures, and the rest was just land. So I was like, okay, I can get enough mana out to get the Tireless Provisioner out, and then I can do Zimona and Dina, and then I'll have some treasures, and I should be able to get out Zendikar's Royal whenever I play my lands. So I think the biggest thing for this deck is timing. Because if you play your lands too early and then you're playing landfall pieces, it kind of falls flat, and you miss a lot of opportunity to make the deck go burr, basically. Because you're missing those triggers. That was the biggest problem whenever I was first learning how to play this deck and pilot it, was I would play a card and then realize, oh, I have this landfall card in my hand, I'll just play it and get it next turn. So I wasn't playing the deck to the full value, and I think a lot of what happened today was just, this sounds vain coming out of my mouth, and I don't mean it the way that it sounds, but it feels something like a representation of my growth in Magic, because I've only been playing seriously for about a year now.
Yeah,
and from the first time I played this deck with Sandwich to now, it is like a completely different deck, and it definitely makes me kind of want to dig into it and make a few tweaks and maybe make it more of like a regular deck. Because I do like it.
I like it.
Absolutely.
I think it's great, dude. And you came in and you're like, the Shockland. Like, I remember when we first started playing, and I don't know if you really, like, now you were like, my life is a resource. Like, that is something that you say. It's something that I have learned to say from you saying that. And, like, you came in and you're like, you've got the Shockland. So I can see how back in the day when you were a more novice player, those are like, I'm not going to pay for that to come in. I can just get the mana. But now you have these, like, this knowledge that, oh, I pay for that, and now I can make this go and that go and that go. And I agree with you. It totally is showing, like, you had the pieces, you just didn't know how to finesse them, like, quite well, and now you've figured out all of these intricacies that make them work really nicely together. It was really cool to see you do that, dude.
Thanks. So I think
so yeah, I know I said you don't have to apologize to me, but you do absolutely apologize. Derp, derp.
I'm sorry.
Derp,
Derp,
derp.
derp.
Look into his eyes.
I'm sorry. So I was actually really scared of Lord of the Nazgul whenever you said you were playing Lord of the Nazgul. What is your usual game plan with Lord of the Nazgul?
Okay, so normally what this does, so it stumbled on land was the main thing. It was drawing so many extra cards early, but it stumbled on hello, cat. Okay, so it stumbled on lands early, but normally what's going to be happening, and I had to control the board. It was mostly actually the Zimone and Dina that I was worried about getting a little bit out of hand when you played the 6/6 that anytime a land enters the battlefield, a 4/4 is going to be made. I didn't know Scoot Swarm was going to follow that, obviously, but I had to kind of empty the board, unfortunately, before I could keep any of my Nazgul in play. And a lot of what this deck does is when you have a Nazgul in play, it's going to copy them. And it's often going to use that, as you saw, with, you know, a couple of creatures and things like that that will copy them, or artifacts that will copy them. But it also does that with spells. And the reason it does that mostly with spells, beyond, you know, the few of the creatures, is that this, right? Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you create a 3/3 black wraith creature token with menace. Then if you control 9 or more wraiths you control have base powers and toughness 9/9 until end of turn. Now that's the base, because when they enter, right, they get +1/+1 counters. So the more you're making each turn, the better. And Irenicus creates it, and it has flying, all right? And isn't legendary if that creature is legendary, so on and so forth. But you can make it legendary after the fact with the ring temptation.
Yeah.
So you're doing things like saw in half, making 2 copies, right?
Yeah.
You're doing things just like playing other wraiths and things like that. So lovely Witch King, of course, is in there.
That's
and
cool
I have
as
the
hell.
real copy as well, so that people can actually read it.
Yeah,
That's considerate.
In a real paper game. But it can recur things with Animate Dead and Yawgmoth's Will, and pull them back, and it can you know, draw more cards using Necropotence and Kindred Discovery. And that Titan of Lityara will also draw it cards. It's got Quasi Duplicate. Again, it's just cloning the Nazgul and making more and more wraiths, such that, and then giving them like horsemanship, because thematic.
Because why not?
Because we can.
I love
right?
it.
Lityara, and it's using some of the lands to make them unblockable. It's putting copies of them into play. Again, it's got pirated copy. It's got a lot of ways to copy them all. And also it has all the, like, you know, this is Bojuka Bog for this, which is Barrow Downs.
Oh, I just pulled that one in a pack.
Yep.
The same pack as the one, actually. It was awesome.
So it has a bit of reanimate to bring them back. And again, Yawgmoth's Will, Fated Infatuation. It's got a lot of ways to just sort of copy things. It has a few things to tutor for things, the Ring Sight and the Demonic Tutor. Because search your library for a card that shares a color with a legendary creature you control. Since you've tempted, right here, automatically the creature is going to be legendary, so that'll work. Lyra can mean that I can do, you know, the spells back, and I double the triggers of things with the Panharmonicon and the throne that you saw that I just did not want to deal with today. But creating copies, right? Rite of Replication is the worst card for everybody else to see, because I create 5 copies, right, of the creature, and I'm almost always going to be getting to 9 at that point.
Yeah.
And they'll all be 9/9, but they'll also all have those +1/+1 counters that they got when coming into play. So it is really fun. So there's just a lot of, you know, like Duplimancy is so much fun with that, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
Copy, except it's not legendary. Hello, cat. So it does contain a few bits of counters magic. It's got the mana drain, it's got the force of negation, and it's got the counter spell. So virtue of knowledge to make the triggers happen twice. It's really, really fun. It's all Lord of the Rings themed, and I just wanted it to be, you know, really fun as opposed to, you know, super competitive.
Yeah.
You can, I think, build a version of this that goes off pretty quickly. You need a bit more fast mana. This isn't running like some of the like mana crypt or anything. I think mana crypt would be very good for this because that means you could power out a wraith on turn 2.
Yeah.
Conceivably. So ew. So yeah, I mean, starting to get the wraiths out sooner is the thing, and then there are a few more broken cards that you could put in it to make it much more competitive, but it just seems like so much fun anyway. So this is my first time playing with it. I built it inspired by a friend's deck, and it just it's so sweet. Sorry, and it's so thematic, and I love it. So that is what it's meant to do. The cat just opened up the game log, so that's fun. With his butt. So
they're so helpful. We love them so much.
Yes. Good job, dude. Come here. Say hi. This is speaking of Lord of the Rings, this is Haldir, who does not die in the books.
Hi, Haldir.
And he is adorable. It has been a tradition of naming cats after Lord of the Rings characters in my family since we got a black cat when I was little. And my mom was like, wouldn't it be funny? Gandalf goes from being Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White, and wouldn't it be funny if he's like Gandalf the Blue? So
that's amazing. I love that.
That's not her voice, but it was really funny. So.
I was hoping it was. That was such a good point.
So, but it was really, really hilarious. That is the humor, and my family laughed it up, and it was like, yes, let's do that. That'll be hilarious because he's the opposite of what Gandalf actually is in the books, and it stuck. So, and then I named my first 2 cats Arwen and Eowyn, and this is Haldir, who Arwen passed last year, but this is Haldir. So he's a sweetheart and also barfy right now.
Excellent kitty.
Because he's like, I would like to tear up your sofa. I'm working on the sofa. I'll fix it so that he can't actually eat it anymore. Yes, voice of cats and Lord of the Rings decks. But yes.
So Lindsey, do you feel like there was something that in your, how do I phrase this? Do you feel like there was a moment in the game where you feel like you weren't drawing what you needed and you were a little bit held down?
Oh, 100%. I was not drawing into my creatures. I kept drawing into instants and sorceries that required me to have tokens in order to do anything useful, and I didn't have tokens yet, and I didn't have any of my token generators, so I was like, well, I have a handful of a lot of stuff that would be super badass if I had anything to do with it. But that's also like we were talking about earlier, where sometimes you draw into the thing that makes your deck just turn over and crush. Sometimes you don't. Yes, because it sounds like the kind of combination that you set up with the cards that you had working together. There's 3 or 4 of them that really all together glom up and make everything go. Yeah. And mine has. Rather than having a couple of big giant combinations that I put together, my deck has 6 or 7 different ways that it can win, and if I happen to draw into any one of them at the right time, then it'll go off.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
And they are Squirrels Go Fast with Concordant Crossroads. Squirrels Adopt a Friend with Craterhoof Behemoth.
Hoof Daddy has to go in any squirrel deck.
Absolutely.
Yeah, his name is George. I've decided that his name is George.
I agree.
I love it.
I like it. George is a good name.
Yeah.
We have Squirrels Get Big with Overrun. And then there is Squirrels Become Eldrazi Monsters. This is a playtest card that a friend sent me a few months ago, and I have not yet managed to play it in a game, but it is now my only goal in a game playing the Squirrel deck.
Oh my god.
Is to play Embercool and Shatterfang. So Squirrels Become Horrifying is one of the ways. Squirrels Become Unblockable with Yavimaya and Nature's Cloak. Give everybody Forest Walk until the end of turn. Squirrels Get Toxic with Triumph of the Hordes, which I did not have in this deck until I learned that squirrel pox is a real, actual disease that squirrels can carry, and it is almost 100% of the time fatal for the red squirrel, which is what all of these dudes are, and the one that my tattoo is built off of. and eastern gray squirrels like Chatterfang carry it. They are the type of squirrel that transmits that disease. So Triumph of the Hordes is not in here to be a jerk. It's in here to educate people on science. And
You tell
that's my
yourself that.
excuse.
Yeah.
You tell yourself that.
And then my absolute favorite way to win in the deck is to win by calling my mom with Squirrel Dealer. Because you have to ask someone outside of the game if they like squirrels, and I have a deal with my mom that I will always call her when I draw this card, and she will always tell me that she likes squirrels.
Oh, good mom, dude.
Perfect.
Um,
The enabling mother.
Yeah.
yes. When I moved away and I moved to Atlanta, and she was like, "Now you have to talk to me. I'm gonna miss you so much." And I was like, "Don't worry, I'll figure out a way to not forget to call at least once a week, and that way is help me win a game, mother."
That's amazing.
I'm playing
one in-
cardboard.
The
Make
one
it
and only time she has ever said no, I don't like squirrels, to prank me is the one time that I called her while I was playing live on a stream. And she didn't know that I was playing live on a stream, and she said no, and I was just like, "You've ruined my life, mother."
Well, now I'm not calling
See if
you
I
for
ever
2
call you
weeks.
again.
Get her.
But yeah, the whole goal of the deck is to have a variety of ways to win something, because I cannot be trusted to remember how my own combos work if they're at all complicated. And to give me more of a chance to draw into things. If one way doesn't work out, there's probably another way coming down the line. Mistakes Were Made is the other kind of sleeper card in here that will win a game every now and then, but I have to be in the right place to play it and make it meaningful. Like I was saying earlier in the game, the last time I got to play it was at MagicCon Chicago on the show floor, and I had parallel lives on the board along with another token doubler, or I don't remember exactly what it was at the time. But I played it down and I could see 9 fire control towers from where I was sitting. And I played it down and I made 27 squirrels that were all 3/3s. And then I played down a concordant crossroads, and I took out the entire board in a single turn with hasty giant squirrels.
Oh my god.
And it was
as the
delightful.
world should end. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
They've got
so it
knives
was-
for a reason.
Yes, she has a tiny little knife for a reason.
So see,
But yeah,
asked you
this is my baby deck.
I liked it. I remember playing against your elf deck, and I was hoping you'd play something similar at from Command Fest.
Yeah.
And I thought I had the best time playing with you at Command Fest. I want you to know that. Offer it.
Thanks.
I had such a
Such a
blast.
good-
It was a
It was
blast.
a great pod. That was a really funny pod.
I need more people to be in Atlanta so that I have cool people to play with here. Like,
I'm in Atlanta.
yes, but
I'm on
how
my way
far-
next year.
yeah, how far away is the problem? Because everybody
That's
said
fair.
like it's like the St. Louis thing. It's Atlanta, but I live
Oh,
an hour and 10 out of the city proper.
What, like,
Even though I'm from
general
Atlanta,
area?
I'm northeast,
Mm.
northeast metro.
I'm straight west.
Okay, yeah. So we're accessible once I have a vehicle, probably, but before that, it's a little harder.
If you play at any LGSs, I went to Wind Condition today in Kennesaw and really, really liked it. So I likely will be frequenting, that's a word, Wind Condition. So they were really cool, and I really liked
Cool.
them over there. If you've ever been there, or if you're
Yeah.
ever interested in playing there, we could definitely meet up.
I have not been to Win Condition yet. Level Up is usually where I go. They're the closest shop to where I live, and they have really, really wonderful people.
We
When
can also
I
meet
when
up
I
there
left
down.
when I left St. Louis, I was very used to my home game shop where I used to live. I literally practically lived at that game shop. I was friends with the owner, and I got to help sort cards, and I would play games all day and all night on Wednesdays and Sundays, and it was like I was very worried I wasn't going to find a spot where I got to be friends with the people like that, especially because it was a giant store. And the people at Level Up have been nothing but wonderful. They remember me after I haven't been in there for 4 months, and I'd only been in there twice before, and they were like, "Hey, how's it going? How's your deck? Did you get the thing that you needed yet?" And I was like, "Oh my god, I have friends. Yeah, it was amazing. They're just the loveliest people.
That's
That's
wonderful. I love stores like that.
I do
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So, Sandwich, I ask you this every time you play Rin and Siri. How are you
Mhm.
liking it? I know it's like turn 5 of playing with it, but how are you liking it? How is it feeling?
So, I was like kind of excited. I added like a little Mondrak, and I added like like a little Delny, and I was gonna add like a little O'Hare Tech, just to try and like make a million gadrillion baby animals come out. But I only got the smothering, or the what was that called? Not the smothering type, but the
Anointed procession.
Anointed Procession.
Anointed
Yes,
Procession.
that's the first time I've ever got that out. So I like it, but also I don't know. I kind of feel bad like murdering all these little animals, and I don't know if I can play this deck anymore because like I can't even pick the rude option in a video game, and now I'm like murder my kitten, and I'm just actually feeling kind of bad about it. So
That's a mood.
I don't
makes a
know.
lot of sense.
My problem.
Playing
my
Baldur's
problem-
Gate is hard.
My problem with the Ren and Siri deck was that every time I tried to build it, I was just like, so the cat cards on the whole are just way stronger than the
Mhm.
dog cards.
Yeah.
And so every time I found myself trying to put it together, I found myself building my dual wielding kitties deck. Because I have a dual wielding kitties deck, and the cats in there are just so much stronger than the dogs, than adding the dogs to this does. Because you get so much more synergy flavors when it's, you know, either cats or dogs.
Yeah.
And then in because there's so few, you know, cards that actually deal with like giving good things and benefits to both cats and dogs.
yeah.
And so you often have to choose one, or you lose half your synergy. And so while you lose half your synergy. So every time I keep trying to build that deck, and I keep going back basically to be like, well, my cat's deck is just better. And that's not to say that there aren't powerful dog cards, but I feel like they're still because of the like, it's difficult to make both synergies work, and there just aren't that many cards that do that. And overall, I think the dog cards seem a little bit weaker these days. Like adding Philia seems interesting. There's a few new dog cards that are good. But so far I have not been able to make that deck, you know, as strong as the dual wielding kitties deck. I just think and they keep printing really good cats too. So like the
And
new little
hounds
ocelot.
don't technically count as dogs, right? They're still spiritually separate as a creature type. Yeah.
Yeah, cats and dogs are not the same thing, and that's why you lose half the synergy when you play a dog if another thing is buffing your cats.
Mhm.
So so that's the problem with the Rin and Siri deck for me, is like thematically it's really interesting just to have like cats and dogs, and I wanted to build a deck with like Rin and Siri and cats and dogs and just fling effects. And then I could say it was raining cats and dogs. But it felt the flavor of it hurt me inside. So like because that's what the red is for, right? Like
Yeah.
so but anyway, so it's just I had difficulty building it. So if you ever come up with a really synergistic build, let me know. I'd love to see it, just because I keep trying to build it, and all I do is like, that dog is not as good as this cat, put the cat in. Like it's rough. Haha. Rough.
Bow wow.
I walked into that myself. Like my mouth said it, and then my brain caught up, and it was like, oh, you didn't.
I'm so glad you did.
And then I had to.
I'm really proud of you for putting things like for putting Mondrak in there and Ojertajek and all, and like, because my Achilles heel with Typal decks is that I'm so much more invested in the flavor and the story of the deck than I am in actually winning. So I can't really build a good deck a lot of the time because I'm too busy making sure that all of the critters I really like are in it. Like,
Yep.
I have plans for a mono white Mondrak deck, and it is the dumbest possible Mondrak deck I think one could build, because it's going to be a goat token deck,
Yes.
so
You
that I
mean-
can make
you mean like this?
I can make the all will bleat one mono white deck.
I will bleat one.
will
That is the
one
plan.
goat token.
I love that so much.
This is the one I sacrifice to RNGesus before every stream.
I love it.
That is amazing. I'm such a fan.
I'm like, what if I took an absolutely hated toxic commander and made it as useless as possible in one post?
That is
The only
awesome.
sad thing is you can't run the like Clackbridge troll
No.
because it's black and it makes so many goats and it's so great because they can sacrifice a goat to your troll under the. Anyway, sorry.
You could do two-headed giant.
You could
Sarah.
find a
So
black card.
I
that's a
want
partner.
to so bad. I want to
There
play
you go.
two-headed. The only game of two-headed giant I've ever played was an 8-player game of two-headed
Oh
giant, and it took
my
us. It took us 6.5 hours, and it was the best time ever. Especially because we all did it because we each had matching decks. So we had 2 Lathril decks and we had 2 Sciurusdrey decks. And like we were playing these ridiculous high-powered pairs, but we were all identical pairs playing like one giant commander game
That's
around the table.
awesome.
It was a blast. It was so much fun.
So Sarah,
Yeah.
you haven't played this deck in a really long time. You've come back and visited. You stomped us all into the ground 6 feet down. But if you were to make changes now, as the player you are, what are you thinking about doing to this deck if you were?
Oh, that's so tough. I like the retreats. I think they can stay. They feel good. There's a part of me that feels like I should take Scoot Swarm out, but it is so good in this deck. But I feel like Scoot Swarm is something that hurts my brain, and whenever I have it, I would feel like a bad Magic player if I just held it and didn't play it.
Okay, so one of the things that I've been advised is if your pool is not like if the people you're playing with are not that competitive, then you're fine to go for it. If the people are competitive, what's happening is you become the target.
Yes.
It literally becomes arch enemy when you play a Scoot Swarm.
Yeah. I think a
So
lot of that has to do
just
with
take
not-
that into account when you're making your decision. I
I could
actually
do
took
Scoot
Scootfall
Mob
out-
instead.
I took Scootfall out of a landfall deck because it makes you the arch enemy so quickly.
Yeah.
And there's that deck which does have landfall synergies doesn't want to be the focus of attention too quickly.
Yeah. I was thinking about taking Scoot Swarm out. I think I will take Scoot Swarm out, and I may put in Flubs the Fool from... No, not Flubs the Fool.
Ooh,
Yeah.
No, there was a...
very nice.
Flubs,
Glarb,
yeah, the-
Glarb, the Sultai one, because Zimon and Dina is Sultai. I would like to build Flubs. I think Flubs is absolutely can be broken. I think on its own it is pretty powerful. But I think Glarb would go really well in Zimon and Dina, so I might slot in Glarb for Scoot Swarm and take that out. I was also looking at a couple of landfall cards. I don't have a list off the top of my head. They're on my EDH rec that I was just kind of scrolling through and like tabbing things, and I don't know. We're gonna see. I don't know if I'll continue playing this deck because landfall's fun. I have a lot of fun with it. But now that we are making content and I am the person who edits our content, all of those triggers, I have a pre-headache thinking about it. Like sitting at
You
edit
poor
table
dear.
and be like, why did I do this? I did this to me. These are the consequences of my actions. I now have to edit it. So it's like, it hurts. I'm just gonna have a whole screen. It's just Squeeze Worm popping up everywhere. And it's like, excuse me.
Yeah, that's one video editing session that I do not envy you.
At least
Oh,
it's
no.
you know, at least
But
it's
just
you.
think about how cool it'll be when you're done.
Oh, that's
It'll
fair.
be so great when you're finished.
That's fair.
Getting buggy with it.
Kinda, there's some cards in here that I see you did that. That was clever. There's some cards. A lot of these cards are proxied. I do have some real cards in here. I have been itching to make a blink deck. That's really what I want to make, is a blink deck. So I will likely take this apart and use some of the real cards in here to make a blink deck, because I really want to build... Azorius is not a color identity that I run frequently. I run a lot of blue. I am a blue player through and through. I am that annoying person who always has a response. So I really want to build Genku from Modern Horizons 3, and I have the physical commander. I just need to start putting together some of the other cards. But
Oh.
I think I might take this deck apart and maybe Landfall's fun, but this feels like a every once in a while kind of deck when I want like a sweet little treat, not like a I'm gonna sit down at the table and play Simone and Dina. But Simone and Dina is this is the second deck I ever built, and I have a friend, Alyssa, who was one of the very first members of GirlPod when I first created it and was conceptualizing it. And I was telling her that I wanted to get better at deck building, because it felt like that was a place in Magic where I really lacked skill in, was deck building. And I'd been gifted, like, over 1,000 cards, and I'd spent an entire month sorting them and logging them and putting them where they needed to go. And she was like, you have all of these cards, you have all of these legendary creatures that can beat commanders, why don't you just go through and see if any of them spark any interest and build around that commander. And so that's how I found my Slimefoot the Stowaway deck. That was the first deck I ever built, was Slimefoot the Stowaway, and that is still my janky little guy. Love that little guy. And then Simone and Dina was the second one. So it was really nice to pull this back out and play it again. I don't know, like, I'm not gonna bring this to Vegas with me, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna throw Obeka in the quiver and Chulane and all my fun decks that other people have fun watching happen. Yeah, I don't know. I think I might take this one apart. Final answer.
It was still fun to play against. At least
You can always keep the list too, and
Feel honored to have seen it before its death.
We've got the chair's first game. We've got the deck's last game. Oh, it's poetic.
Well, alright, y'all. That is all the time that we have tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and play Met Talk here. Thank you so much to our Patreon members. We love you guys. We could not pod without
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for being a part of the team. Thanks for being a part of GirlPod. We will catch you guys next week with another video. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
Girl Pod, Girl Pod. What's up, Girl Pod? She's in Girl Pod too.